Hey everyone, welcome back to LazyBoy Crypto. I'm really excited about this project. It's a LayerZero protocol, and let me tell you all about it. This one is actually called LayerZero. I mean, why not? It does what it says on the tin, right? So one of the main reasons for using blockchain technology is trustlessness. So think about it. When you put money into your bank, you have to trust that the bank is going to give you access to your funds whenever you want it. And it's the same with centralized crypto exchanges. You make a deposit, but ultimately the exchange is controlling your funds, and you have to trust that they're going to allow you access to your funds whenever you want it. But blockchain technology in and of itself allows trustlessness. It allows you to make financial transactions without having to put trust in a centralized authority. Now, decentralized exchanges have removed some of this trust, but there is still some trust that you have to have in DEXs. So decentralized exchanges, they involve converting your token you want to trade into a protocol-specific token that moves through the intermediate consensus layer to achieve transaction consensus. This action requires you to trust a sidechain to facilitate the token transfer. So say you have a token on chain A that you want to swap for a token on chain B. If you use a DEX, the DEX will give you an intermediary token or a wrapped token on chain B, not the actual token that you want, not the native asset. And then you can exchange this intermediary or wrapped token for the asset that you actually want. But that involves multiple transactions and multiple costs. But also, you have to put some trust in the intermediary, the sidechain that actually makes that transaction possible. But really, what we want is one single, simple transaction from chain A to chain B. You put in your chain A token and out pops your chain B token with one transaction, one gas fee. So enter LayerZero. Now, LayerZero is a general communication layer. It's a LayerZero. It goes beneath the layer ones. It is the first trustless omni-chain interoperability protocol. That is a mouthful. But it supports messaging directly between both layer 1s and layer 2s. And the way that LayerZero works is it has two independent entities that it relies on. Now, these have to be kept independent. The first is a relayer, and the second is an oracle. And both of these together corroborate the validity of a transaction. So let's look at this further. How does LayerZero compare to some other protocols? So how does it compare to Polygon? So Polygon combines independent side chains with the community and the security of the Ethereum main chain. And these heavy use applications, they run on the side chain, which takes a load off of the Ethereum main chain. In contrast, LayerZero is a lower level platform that enables direct inter-chain communication and can be used to facilitate transfers back to the Ethereum chain without the complexities of side chains. How does LayerZero compare to Polkadot? Polkadot is a cross-chain ecosystem. It has a relay chains and then parallel chains, which it calls parachains. And these parachains connect to the relay chain. And it enables tokens and data to be passed through all of these chains, but they all have to go through the relay chain, and this can incur additional costs. Now, LayerZero is similar to Polkadot in that it is a lower level communication platform, but it doesn't rely on sidechains, and no transactions have to go through a middle relay chain, which cuts out a lot of the costs. What about ThorChain? Well, ThorChain is a DEX that uses liquidity pools to transfer tokens between third-party chains. And each liquidity pool binds your token to ThorChain's token, which is Rune. And this acts as a common interchange medium. So without Rune, all pairs of currencies would need a liquidity pool on that chain, meaning the number of pools would scale as the square of the number of currencies. But this method is cumbersome, right? This transaction process, although scalable, it's quite complicated if you always have to swap to Rune and then from Rune to whatever token you want. So LayerZero, it provides direct communication between chains without this intermediary token. And the platform itself is also lightweight compared to ThorChain, which is actually quite a heavyweight platform. So how does LayerZero work? I mentioned that you have the oracle and then you also have the relayer. A LayerZero endpoint exists on each supported blockchain, and any chain with a LayerZero endpoint can connect to any other chain with a LayerZero endpoint. So that creates a connected network. And with some simple code, any blockchain can be added to this network. So LayerZero allows cross-chain swaps without intermediary tokens, wrap tokens, or the use of side chains or a middleman relay chain. The exchange itself is handled by smart contracts on each chain. So say you want to swap token A on chain A for token B on chain B. You'd make one simple transaction on chain A, paying chain A gas. The oracle then fetches the block header for the block containing that transaction, and the relayer independently fetches the proof that that transaction is valid. So the two must corroborate the transaction for it to go through and for you to receive token B on chain B. And the relayer and the oracle always remain independent, and they have to be independent in order for the transaction to go through. So at the heart of LayerZero lies trustlessness. So instead of having to trust a platform or an exchange or an entity or a DEX, anything like that, instead of having to trust, which is quite a strong condition, all you need is independence. You just have to have independence between the relayer and the oracle to ensure that that transaction is valid and goes through. And that's a much weaker condition than trust. This requirement of independence rather than the requirement of trust is one aspect which allows LayerZero to be a very efficient and lightweight platform. So in practice, LayerZero provides the relayer, and the oracle comes from Chainlink's decentralized oracle network. Okay, so now you know how LayerZero works, you know what the benefits are, why we need it, how it's different to other protocols. So what applications can be built on LayerZero? Well, anything that requires cross-chain transfers can be built on LayerZero. For example, you could have a cross-chain decentralized exchange. And contrary to existing DEX designs that issue wrap tokens or go through an intermediary sidechain, a DEX built using LayerZero to send messages between chains can be built such that liquidity pools exist on both chains. And users can simply deposit their native assets in one pool and withdraw native assets on the other chain. You could also have a multi-chain yield aggregator. By being able to access multiple chains and yield farming across multiple chains without having to move your assets from one chain to another, without having to bridge anything. This allows for many more strategies and opportunities when it comes to yield farming and building wealth passively. You could access high yield opportunities across multiple chains. And you can do it using just one simple transaction. You wouldn't have to bridge your assets across multiple chains. You wouldn't have to swap this token for that token. You wouldn't have to pay so many different gas fees and have gas ready for each chain that you're going to use. Instead, you just use gas from the source chain, the one that you start off with. If you want to access a yield farm on chain B, but your assets are on chain A, then that DEX built on LayerZero will enable you to yield farm on chain B with your assets from chain A in one simple transaction. You could also have multi-chain lending, and this is similar to yield farming. You wouldn't have to move your assets from one chain to another. You wouldn't have to bridge your assets in order to take advantage of an opportunity, a borrowing and lending opportunity on another chain. Instead, you could actually lend your assets on chain A and then borrow directly from chain B. So this eliminates all intermediary costs such as bridging and swaps. And it makes it a hell of a lot easier for everyday people to use crypto and DeFi. So LayerZero, in my opinion, is making crypto and DeFi less complicated, less confusing, and less costly. And what's more, it involves trustlessness. You no longer have to trust centralized exchanges or sidechains or a relay chain. Instead, all you need is to have that independence between the relayer and the oracle. That's it. And then your transaction can go through. So that requirement of independence has a lot less weight than the requirement of full trust. So you'll be able to swap native assets from one chain to another in a simple transaction, one gas fee. Now, LayerZero does not have a token of its own yet, but it has built its own DEX called Stargate. So with Stargate, you can transfer native assets cross-chain, accessing Stargate's unified liquidity pools. Now, the reason that they built Stargate was so that people can use LayerZero's protocol right away. You can use Stargate now to swap native assets from one chain to another. But obviously in the future, they hope and expect developers to build more apps on LayerZero. So I advise you to go check out LayerZero's website and their white paper to learn more, and as soon as LayerZero releases their own token, then I will let you know. So if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.